Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastvanivartakaha Andakar Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we'll continue this class on the attaining of non-attachment. That is the main topic that we have chosen based on this book by Swami Akhandananda called Vyavahara Shuddhihi, which means the purifying your transactions in life. That's what it really means. And so he gave 2 lectures 1 year apart. And so this is the second part of the 2 years series. And I thought we would take this up in a few classes. So in Shastra, there is a famous statement which says, Asango hi ayam atma, which is a factual statement. And it says that the self is non-attached to anything in the world. There is no, unlike what we believe to be our experience, which is that I am very much attached to the experiences of my life. Whatever experience happened, they happened to me, and so therefore I am deeply connected to it. So separate from that is the Ghoshana or Dindima of the Shastra, which says no. Asango hi ayam atma. It is totally non-attached. And it gives a very small sample of it during a deep sleep, which is an important lingam for us, an important hint for us, because as we have discussed it before, one of the purposes of the deep sleep is, in addition to providing a lot of rest for your tired instruments of your body, is a example of how the Atma is asanga. So we know this for a fact, so that when further the instructions, the teachings are given to us, we don't totally disbelieve. At least the Vedantic students do not just don't say, what is this? It cannot be. Because we have an example. Every night we get a beautiful experience of non-attachment. Totally non-attached, because no matter what happens to, the funny part is that not only what happens to the outside world, but what happens to our own body and mind also is I am non-attached to. If I have some bodily problems, some cuts or some pain or something, disappears. And certainly if any mental issues come up where I'm unhappy or extremely happy or whatever, disappears. So there is a small sample that Ishvara has given us to expand on. It's kind of like a postage stamp representation of the life, which says, yes, it can be done. It, in fact, not only can be done, it is true. You just have to understand it. So this is the topic, which is asangata, sangarahita. So this is the topic that we are doing. So here, the various sadhanas have to be looked at, because the sadhanas should be looked upon as a measured step by step for achieving a very ambitious goal. You know, if you have to, I don't know, this example appeared to me when I was writing my notes in preparing for this class, that if you suppose you want to be an athlete that really wants to be a high jumper, and when the Olympics come about, you can see the jumping. Now, when you are starting out, you know, jumping maybe 2 feet or perhaps even 3 feet is difficult without falling, but it is possible. Then, to be able to jump greater than your own height, if somebody were to say, can you do it? You would say, no, that's not possible. I cannot jump 6 feet without really disturbing the bar on the top. That's not possible. And so it is reasonable that you would say that that's not possible. But we all know, I don't know what the current height is in the Olympics. It's probably much more than 6 feet. But we don't believe it. And yet it is there. And so what you need to do is to do a step-by-step approach where you first try out with 2 feet, then go to 3 feet. And it's not just the effort. This is an important point to do. It is not just the effort of reaching a height. It is the technique. So, as you know, if you have seen, I'm sure that you've all watched high jumping. What you need to do is to jump in such a way that your body becomes horizontal. That's the skill. Because you cannot jump straight away like this and then kind of cross over with your legs. You won't be able to go more than 4 feet maybe, I don't know. But if you want to reach that height, there are 2 things involved. There is effort, abhyasa, and there is skill. So the sadhana also has to be there. So similarly, what we are doing here in attaining this amazing height of asangata. Asangata means not conditional asangata. By the way, you should see that the asangata at night is still connected to one thing. I'll let you think about it while I get a drink of water. Think about it. There is one thing that you are still connected to. Think about it. What is it that you're still connected to? It's not complete asangata. It's enough to be devoid of any connection with the world, but there is one connection still left. What is it? In your mind, tell me if you have the right answer. The connection is to self-ignorance. Self-ignorance is you're still connected to. But the connection to self-ignorance, which is avarana, which is hiding, does not result in vikshepa. It does not result there's a non-apprehension, but it does not transfer into misapprehension. As it is in the case of looking at a rope. So if the rope is completely in the dark, you will not take it for a snake. But what happens is that the partial light and the partial darkness converts your avarana into vikshepa. So at night time, you're still connected to a certain degree. But if you follow our step-by-step sadhana, as we are going to be discussing, then the possibility is of total asangata, not even partial asangata. Even the partial asangata is very pleasing, but this will be even more pleasing, much more pleasing, tremendously more pleasing, where you are essentially free and you know that you are free. It's not as though you're asleep or anything like that. So this becomes the sadhana, which can be translated into, you can call it a gradual attainment, but I think it's not as though there is a process involved or anything like that, but you just have to keep at it and employ hard work as well as thinking. Skill here means thinking. So here, both karma and jnanam have to be employed. So this is what the introduction to the sadhana is. This is what we are going to be doing. So here, in these discourses by Swamiji, he almost exclusively resolves along the Bhagavad Gita. So we will be quoting the Bhagavad Gita and also trying to understand what the Bhagavad Gita is saying in support of this step-by-step asangata. So here, the result of this, as the Bhagavad Gita points out in chapter 5, verses number 8 and 9. This is not teaching, I'm just giving you the reference for it so that you can cross-reference it to the Bhagavad Gita. So here, as you know, in the chapter 5, verses number 8 and 9, it says, Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavit pashyan shrinvan spishan jigran ashnan swapnan ashnan is a difficult word, sandhi. Pashyan shrinvan spishan jigran. Ashnan gachan swapan shwasan pralapan visrijan grinhan unmishan nimishan api indriyani indriyartheshu vartante iti dharayan. So this is the crux of the sadhana from the Gita. It says, Tattvavit, one who is knower of what is what is the truth about our life. Tattvavit. Tattvam vetti iti tattvavit. Saha. Na eva kinchit karomi iti yuktaha manyeta tattvavit. Is even though when you are living a life, your sense is things are happening, I'm not doing anything. Man na kinchit karomi iti. If you remember in the Saturday class, when I was driving to Milpitas, I was telling you in the class that if for a very short time I had this sense, my goodness, I am what I am, and this car is going, I'm not doing anything. At the very most, I'm just making sure that it doesn't go out of the lane, and there's hardly any effort on my part. And yet I am traveling so fast and traveling so many miles, and so much is happening. I'm from Los Altos Hills. I go to Los Altos, then Sunnyvale, and then all the way up to 237. There's a lot happening, but all without really any involvement from me. It's a very pleasant feeling. And so this is just a small sample. But here, this is the feeling of a Jivan Mukta. That no matter what you're doing, that's what it is saying, Pashyan. So this is present participle. Pashyan means that while you are seeing things, Swashan, while you are hearing, Sprishan, while you are touching, Jigran, while you are tasting, and all those kinds, Gachan, Swapan, Shwasan, while you are breathing, Pralapan, Visrijan, all the aspects, and we might actually take some of this individually. But no matter what you're doing, I am really nothing is really happening. I am completely asanga. This is the final goal. And it's this is a very reachable goal. It's not as though it's, oh my gosh, it'll be some Mahatmas and so on. No, it can be done. And we will work on this as we go through the next few discourses on how this is the case, how we make a mistake. And so this is the goal. So here, Swamiji says, Swami Akhandananda says, that even before you start to read the advice from the Bhagavad Gita, Guna Guneshu Vartante iti Matvana Sajjate, that Gunaha, the various aspects of the life, they are busy interacting with each other. And I am not doing anything. And so this is where the iti matvana sajjate. Then if that happens, you're free. If it happens slowly, you are slowly getting free. If it happens completely, you are completely free. So this is the process. This is the step-by-step that we could do that. So here, Swami Maheshananji makes a point that very early on in this whole process, one thing that you should do is to try to give up the I and my notion. And so we need to see the logic of this. The logic of this giving up the I and mine is that the feeling of I am doing, this is mine, this is my goal, this is what my process is, these are my people, this is my house, and so on. this kind of a feeling, what that does, if you analyze it, you are concluding and looking at these thoughts from the standpoint of a jiva. And as such, it should be excused. It's very reasonable that you do it that way. But what happens is, really speaking, this is what we're going to see this in more detail as we progress on this, but just some primers, that if you look at if we look, and I keep on saying you, I should do both you and I, we have similar issues. If we look at our lives, then there are two aspects to it. In a way, this is kind of like a partnership between Ishvara and Jiva. See, this is the thing. Swami Chinmayananda used to say this. This was one of his favorite topics, that Ishvara and Jiva jointly are responsible for leading this life. How so? Because, as we will see, Ishvara has a very large part in making what you are today. Unknown to me, large part, happening already. All the experiences, the vasanas and so on, Ishvara is doing. Not only that, even the running of the body, the mind, etc., you're not beating the heart. You're not taking deep, breaths. Breathing is automatic. So all that is, somebody is doing it. Anyway, so there is a part that Ishvara does and a part that I do. And my part is also there, where I'll say, I want to turn left. I want to see left. I just had an eye exam the other day. So this is very fresh in me. So the doctor told me, okay, look up. I think finally I discovered that I'm going to finally do cataract on my left eye, because for a number of days I could say, I'm not seeing as well. So I actually called and even though I just had an exam about 6 months ago, but she says, yep. So sometime in September it's scheduled, I'm going to take one. But in the process of doing that, she says, look up, look right, look down. So there is something that I'm doing, and I can transgress Ishvara's will to a certain minor limit. Ishvara gives you the permission for some small things here and there. You can just do, you want to turn left, and that also the Ishvara has given all the paraphernalia, because when you want to say left, your mind says, okay, left. So turn your head now, so the head also follows. Karmendriya. Go up to the mind, so the buddhi decides. So that also is given by Ishvara, but at least the direct action is mine. So what I'm saying is that it's a partnership between Ishvara and Jiva. So here's the problem. This is the important thing to see. For a ajnani, for a person that doesn't understand the whole thing, you think you totally are responsible for doing everything. Realistically, you have maybe, I don't know, I'm just pulling out some numbers, maybe a 2% participation, and 98% is done by Ishvara. But what happens is that in my non-understanding, because I don't understand there is even an Ishvara. I don't believe in it, I don't understand it. I think that I don't know where he is, it's nothing to do with me. I am just responsible for myself. So therefore, really, you usurp, you confiscate the 98% of your thinking all to yourself. And this has terrible consequences. One consequence is that you are insulting Ishvara. It's like, somebody is doing something for you and you ignore it completely. I don't know who's doing it. I think I'm doing it. You ignore it. So in ignoring this, you terribly insult the person who is responsible for it. Now, Ishvara is not affected because Ishvara does not get insulted. Swami Maheshananji had given this very beautiful example. He says, suppose you throw a rubber ball on a wall. All the wall does is to reflect it to what you did. I remember when I was growing up in Amritsar, we used to have these tennis balls. Cricket balls are too hard, you cannot bounce it off. But we used to have tennis balls. Somehow, I don't know, there was no tennis. But you can get a tennis ball or rubber ball, sorry, not a tennis ball. What am I saying? These little rubber balls used to be there. And so we would play games of bouncing the rubber ball at various angles of the wall. Fast, slow, high, low. So what the wall does, it has no mind of its own. It doesn't reflect the bouncing of the ball according to its own moods. No, it simply returns to you what you put into it. If you throw the ball very softly, then the ball will bounce very slowly into the ground before you can even get there. And this is all part of the game that we used to do. If you do it very, very hard, then it bounces way out to the front. So similarly here also, when you insult Ishvara, Ishvara is not insulted. It's, in that sense, it is like a wall. What happens is you are punished. You punish yourself. How do you get punished? You get punished by dying and taking another birth. You don't understand what's going on, who's doing what, exactly what is going on. If you don't understand this, then you continue to make stupid mistakes, life after life after life after life after life. This is the punishment. So, I remember this when the acharyas used to say that. I would say, well, I don't worry about the next life. When I face the next life, I'll do it. I'm not worried about what I will be in the next life. All right? If you want to know the second problem that you're going to get, this is the first problem, which is a huge problem when you think about it, that you cannot really get freedom. The second problem is, even in this life, you'll be unhappy. How? Because you have taken on the mantle of I do everything. So in that process, your estimations are wrong. You're exaggerating. Your projections on what it should be are totally wrong. You think it should be okay. And you blame others for making things tough for you when in fact you did it yourself. Like that. There's a number of problems that occur. Therefore, see, this is the thing we have to really understand. Vedanta is not a child's game. This is why I really sort of like smirk sometime when some students basically say, you just have to just be a sakshi and just observe what's happening in your mind. And you'll be okay if you do that. This is childish. Perhaps in the beginning you may have to do something like this. This is like kindergarten stuff. What you need to do is exactly understand what is going on. What are the rules? What is the mind? It's much more comprehensive than that. And people will say, I'm just going to do Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, and just quietly just watch my mind, and slowly it'll get. And there's a lot of teachers who say this. It's not just our own students. This is why I keep saying that please stay with this sampradaya. Don't go outside of that. Because when you go outside, there is a lot of rigmarole. The life is full of that if you just do shanti, you'll get some shanti, but you don't get freedom. This is a huge thing. We have to understand. We have to probe. We have to look at every aspect of our life until we are completely satisfied, yes. And the goal is not to have a shanta vritti, but to have a shanta vritti even if my mind is upset. I laugh at it. That is the real freedom. It's not because of the quiet mind. It is in spite of the non-quiet mind. This is what we have to do. So Vedanta is not for the child. People think they are now become very, very educated. Now I've done this a long time. Anyway, let's not go there. So, so what the acharyas are saying, that the I and mine has to be put into perspective. And yes, you do play a minor role, but very minor. And we will look into that. We will look into more detail of that. This is just a start. Here, Swami Akhandananda says that what needs to happen is you have to mold yourself according to the prakriti of Ishvara's creation. Not the prakriti of Ishvara, which is Ishvara's creation, is prakriti. So the prakriti has a certain way of expressing itself, which is very natural. And our acharyas have pointed this out. Swami Viditatmananda is very fond of saying this, and I completely agree with him. Really, it's a very harmonious srishti. Very harmonious. And what makes it harmonious is what I need to discover, because I don't feel it is very harmonious to me. And the reason for that is that I'm trying to fit myself in a shape which doesn't fit in. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, and there's, if you want to exaggerate, there's one piece of the jigsaw puzzle left, which is me. Everything else is there. But the picture is incomplete until I also put myself into the jigsaw puzzle. And the jigsaw puzzle, I'm just exaggerating a little bit, has a circle. That's the only part left that is there for. And I am a square. And I keep putting that in because people say you are the only last one left, so you put that in. It doesn't go. The picture is still incomplete, and I'm frustrated. So here's how Imeshananji says what needs to happen is you have to discover how to chisel your shape so that you can fit in. So this whole advice is just very beautiful because you don't expect the world to, you don't want the whole world to say, well, I am what I am. I'm a square peg in a round hole. I'm a square peg and I cannot change. This is me. The world has to fit to me. Try it. The world will not fit you. It is too huge. You cannot change it. So your only choice is to chisel yourself, reluctantly perhaps in the beginning with some dukkha. But this is what you have to do if you want a complete freedom of fitting in with the rest of the world. So this is a big topic that we can discuss it in different ways. The whole world is involved in doing yajna, sacrificial offering in some form or the other. Certainly the prakriti is. And also all beings except the human being is involved in a natural prakriti, is natural yajna. So the sun rises, not because it gains anything from it, but it does because it is part of a creation. There's light to be given. That is the assignment that Ishvara has given to the sun. Listen, you are an important part of the creation, hey Surya. Just light and give your heat. Chandrama. Similarly, a role is given to Chandrama. Delight people. They cannot wait for the full moon. So beautiful, so cool. Water. All the natural prakriti is offering itself. Rains, heat. And animals. Animals are also made to sacrifice themselves and to there's a natural order. Human beings are a square peg in a round hole initially, but the human beings have an amazing future that if you can chisel yourselves to be in the right shape, you can reach heights that animals cannot. Prakriti, of course, doesn't need to. It'll be very beautiful. So this is the job that we have to do. We have to look at that. Gosh, I have 3.5 pages of notes and I'm only done half of it. I'm talking too much. So here, the next thing that Swami Akhandananda points out is, how do we do this? What do you mean by chiseling yourself and making your shape which is amenable to the shape of the Prakriti? How do we do that? So here he says, I think the whole process really is to grow from the standpoint of an individual jiva. Because jivatvam is a false identity, that the room space is not a room space, it is a total space. So the whole idea is to diminish the hold of the individuality and grow into something which is bigger. Swami Dayanand used to say this, I remember this so well. He used to say that, there is joy in individuality, but there's also dukkha. And you would ask somebody, it says, please try to give up individuality. And the person feels that that's all I have. I am what I am. I may not be perfect, but I accept myself. I'm okay with, I know I'm not terribly happy, but at least I've got a life and so on. I don't, what do you want me to do? I'll just give up everything? I don't know what I will be. So there is a sort of like a fear of growing out of a small sense, a sense of smallness. Because a sense of smallness also is somewhat comforting. And Swami Dayanand used to say what the problem with this approach is, that you don't know what you're missing until you try to give up some things. So this theme will also reverberate as we go forward. So there's some common things in all of this. So the key thing to remember is that we talked about the steps involved. So the steps involved are to try to abandon a sense of individuality, because there is a much larger payoff, waiting if I do that. And I am shy, I am fearful that I don't know, I've got some money, I've got the house, and I can't give this up. We're not asking you to give up the house or anything, but the sense of, because you're not willing to entertain a sense of largeness, which is given by Ishvara. So you have to really let the Ishvara take over. But I don't know how to do that. Anyway, these are the steps that we have to do. So here, an important step is given. Swami Akhandananda says what we need to do is to convert samskaras into vikaras. So that is the Sanskrit definition. So here's what it means. So samskaras means vasanas. Means that each one of us is the effect of millions of lives before I've gone through, all combined together into making me what I am today. And what I am today is uncertain of who I am, uncertain of where I should go, what I should do, what should I know, who should I follow. And I have sukha dukkha on my life, and I seem to be wandering around. I don't have a direction. This is the samskaras. Everybody has that. None of us is unique. And what I need to do, if I'm fortunate to find the right teachers, is to convert my wandering around into a directional fullness. It's just exactly like that. If you are lost and you don't know, it's like you're lost means that you've gone to the same place a couple of times and you're saying, I don't know, I thought I was going to get out. But somebody says, okay, I'll tell you what. I know, here's what you need to do. So you take like a GPS and you follow that. You're not there yet, but now you begin to make progress, which is not random. So this is what is meant by vikara. I don't know how this word is brought out in this etymology of it. So vikara would mean visheshena kara, probably. So here I would support this by Swami Dayanandaji's. He used to say that there are almost like 3 different stages of one's mind. So one stage is where I am wandering, not knowing where to go. The second stage is to convert that into deliberateness. So he used to give this example that when somebody says something to you which is not pleasing, your first reaction is to react. Just say, what are you talking about? Have you looked at yourself? You're criticizing me? So you just pick up a little argument. This is the first reaction. Because you hate being criticized. You cannot stand being put down by anyone. And Swamiji says that the second, so this is samskara in the language of Swami Akhandananda. And you turn that into vikara. So vikara means deliberateness. You make your thoughts and your vani, your speech, deliberate. Take a deep breath. If anger is swelling in, be aware of the fact that anger is swelling in. Do not react to anything at all. And you can say, that's your viewpoint. I disagree with it, but let's discuss it in a cooler moment. Let's not fight. This is a deliberate. And your thoughts are still, you want to react, but now you're learning to become more deliberate. And this stage of deliberateness is very conscious. You are conscious about your responses. You are aware of what your mind is. This is the conscious, the deliberate stage. If you do this often enough, then comes the third stage, which is instinctive. These are words that Swami Dayanandaji used to use. Before deliberate, he used to use another word which I've forgotten. So I just said random, but it's not the word that he had used. Then to deliberate, and then instinctive. So the instinctive is that your responses don't need to be deliberate. It just happens, spontaneous. Spontaneous. And so here in Swami Akhandananda's language, what he's saying is that the deliberate and spontaneous is like washing the dirt of samskaras deliberately. Like your body has become dirty because you were at such places that were dirty, and your skin has become dirty, and so it doesn't come off easily. So what you do when you take a shower is to put soap on it. And when you put soap on it, the soap has the ability to discard the dirt. Now comes another important part. The next stage is you have to discard the soap also. You cannot keep on putting the soap on and say, okay, I don't see the dirt anymore. Okay, it's all nice gray color soap and my body looks very clean. No, because the soap also has to be discarded. So the next one is that whatever gunas that you used to counteract your vasanas, your samskaras, and those also have to be given up. This is the final stage. So here, for example, and I'm just giving one interesting example. One example, but I hope that's interesting for you. That if you were born as a Hindu and you never really practiced Hinduism, you didn't know what it means, you don't know what the Shastra is saying, you've not studied the Bhagavad Gita, you don't know the direction, all of that, you're not a Vaidika. So the first, that is a samskara. You're just knocking around in life, just a free bird, trying out this, reading that book, this, that, or the other. But finally, when it comes to a study of something profound, you found it. Now you apply yourself. So this is vikara. This is like a soap. You apply yourself towards this one direction that is given in the Shastra, whatever. And if you're a Christian, you could do exactly the same thing. You never really studied the Bible before, but now you study the Bible. And if you are a Muslim, you never really studied the Quran, you now study the Quran. So that is all converting the samskara to vikara. So let's say back to the Hindu. Now you're a Hindu, and you now have reached a certain depth of understanding of what Hinduism is. So now it does not mean that you embrace Hinduism to such a degree that you start to put down the Bible and the Quran. So this is what is called asakti. Asakti means that you are so wedded to the vikaras that you are not willing to look at, or at least accept. You don't have to look at it, but do not accept that all these are also nothing but Maya Shakti. That really you are in the grips of something which is called asakti. You are in the grips of something that you are unwilling to give up. This is not the final stage of asangata. Asangata means that you have to give up even the very practice of what you're doing. This is not a practice. This is not following the edict of what Vedas are saying. This is to understand your asangata. And eventually you will be equally at ease in whatever religion there is, whatever spiritual path there is. Because now you've seen the truth. And really all the spiritual paths and alternatives are nothing but mithya alone, including the Hindu Vedas. Gita also says, I forget the verse, that finally even the Vedas also have to be given up. Because you are an independent person. It brought you up to a certain point, but now you reflect on yourself and you have to give up that also. If you don't do that, it's like you never gave up the soap on your body. And you put the clothes on and you're moving around with soap on it all over. Because this is this is how I washed the doshas of my body. Doesn't make any sense. So here the asakti also has to be given up. So the asakti is also pointed out in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavaha mattaha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhaha bhava samanvitaha. It says that what you need to do is, so here, Swami Akhandananda points out that bhajante mam, bhajante means they are devoted to me, they do bhajan to me. Buddhaha, buddhaha means jnaninaha, the ones who are knowledgeable. And this is why they say that the jnani's bhakti is the real bhakti. Ajnani's bhakti is very conditional. It's almost like transaction, that I'm very devoted to you, Ishvara, please take care of me. And Ishvara, for some reason, doesn't take care of me, then I say, I'm sorry. I know I'm no longer devoted to you. I got to do something else. You're not protecting me. That is the Ajnani's bhakti. Ajnani's bhakti is that really everything really belongs to Ishvara. And it is good or bad, you just have complete faith in. No cheating, no lying, no all those kinds of things. Anyway, so here, Swami Akhandananda says, Bhava samanvita. So what that means is that just like you see one clay pot and you know that this comes from a very good clay which is all over. And then you look for other pieces that are made out of the same clay. And you recognize that the same clay gives rise to the various pots. Similarly, what we need to do is to understand by the study of the Shastra, matta sarvam pravartate. Please see that I am the clay of the entire world. Aham sarvasya prabhavaha. All the things come out from me. And so really, whatever you touch, whatever you do, whatever relationships you have, whatever results you get, whatever disappointments you get, this is Ishvara's body, not an ordinary thing. You cannot just dismiss it. You cannot be angry with it. You don't need to be. You just become knowledgeable. This is the thing that we have to do. We don't have to accept it. You have to see that, my goodness, everything that I see comes out of Ishvara, is stayed in the Ishvara, and dissolves back in Ishvara, exactly like a clay pot. So what the experience of the clay pot is, to become more aware of what the clay is. It doesn't matter whether the clay pot is broken or not. Is it new or old? Is it pretty or not pretty? But the very substance of it is the one that really impresses you. Similarly here also, what I need to do is to understand and is to initially accept maybe, but then to get it very clearly that everything in this whole thing is nothing but Ishvara, Brahman. So this is what is called Ishvara Bhakti Paksha. The Bhakti Paksha. Now comes not just Bhakti Paksha, but Viveka Paksha. Paksha means the standpoint, the way of looking at it is. That way is called Paksha. So here the understanding that everything comes out of Ishvara and I am devoted to that person who, despite all the changes, doesn't change. This is bhakti. This is the bhakti paksha. Now comes viveka paksha. So here, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse number 28 is given as a part of that. Tattvavittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayoho gunaha guneshu vartante iti matva na sajjate. Gunaha guneshu vartante iti matva na sajjate. So here, introducing this verse, Swami Akhandananda says that without viveka, a bhakti is not pure. And without viveka, the asangata is also not pure. Neither is the bhakti pure, shuddhi, nor is the asangata, which is the final goal. So therefore, viveka is very important. And so what is viveka? So very briefly, it's 9:02. We'll look at how long this new topic will take. Well, let me at least do a few minutes of that, and then we can see. So viveka here means you need to move in the right direction. You cannot compromise and still feel I'm doing okay, I'm going in that direction. So several examples are given. I won't spend that much time, but let me give you all these examples. So Swami Akhandananda says, suppose there is a thief who's a professional thief. He just lives by stealing things. And so somebody says that, why are you stealing things from people? So he says, it doesn't matter to me. I can stop it anytime. And it doesn't really matter to me. I just do it for the sake of it. And I've got to do something in my life. So I've just taken up stealing, but I'm not connected to it. I'm an asanga. You can say I am a sangha. When you come to Vedanta lecture, he says, "Yep, I am a sangha." This is not right. Why not? Because he is wedded to wealth. He loves money. So the asakti is that of towards money. So you cannot say that I'm asanga. You already have a connection to it. That cannot be it. So this is not viveka. This is aviveka. Similarly, another person says, disregarding speech, I can criticize anybody. In fact, I follow certain gurus and I don't stay with any one guru for a very long time. Because you know what? They all have problems. I'm just going to be following them for a little while. Then I'll drop them. I am a sangha. I don't have any connection to this one guru. I'll pick up a new guru, not a big throng. And I'm fearless. I am not afraid of anything. If I can insult someone, you're violating the very principles of learning and being humble and so on. So you have an asakti towards some kind of a jivatvam, that I am a very important jiva. I can give up, I can disregard a guru, just throw him out. This is not viveka. Here, this is an important thing. The covenant between a husband and a wife. This is where, we have 16 samskaras. This word samskara is different. Samskara actually is a very good way. Previously, the samskara was that of a vasana, but here the samskara means you do certain things in your life to become very, very deliberate. And one very important one is getting married. Because after marriage, you develop a discipline of not looking at anyone else romantically other than your own spouse. This is not an ordinary thing. This is a very important thing. So this maryada means the very covenant of marriage. This is a samskara. And so if you become unfaithful, and what that means is, you say, no, I don't believe in, marriage is okay, I don't like my husband, I don't like my wife, and I don't want to get divorced, but I can just be free and, go around with other people. That means your sense of freedom is warped. That's not what freedom is all about. Now I can say anything to anyone. That's freedom? No, that's not freedom. So that is also not viveka. You have to follow a particular way and stick to it. Like in marriage, once you get married, you cannot develop another romantic relationship with anyone else. You deal with people. It's not as though you hate anybody. But that way of looking at somebody is not there anymore. This is what marriage does. It's very beautiful. And you stick with it. So I'll end with a very interesting story. That's what I wanted to give. And we'll end the class with this. So here's a story. So it turns out that in India, there is a certain role that these people play, what is called bahurupya. Bahurupya. I think many of you may have heard this word. Bahurupya means a person who excels in, who is a specialist in making himself or herself into different forms that people cannot recognize. By costume or by expression or something, they completely behave differently. And people cannot recognize it. So there was a very expert Bahurupya. So there was a king. And the king said, I've heard of this Bahurupya. I want him to come to my palace. And he told him, listen, I have a proposition for you. I understand that you can take a form that I cannot recognize. Okay, here's what it is. If you take a form like this that I cannot recognize, I will give you $1 million. Okay, so now disappear. So the person says, okay, I think I'm a very good Bahurupya. This is a challenge and I must do that. So what he does is, he goes and starts to become a sadhu. And so he has a long beard and the clothes that he's wearing. And not only that, he's a virakta sadhu. Virakta sadhu means one who doesn't need anything. And he really plays that role very well. He refuses all money. People bring fruits to him. He says, no, I don't need fruits. Just a dal roti is enough. And people adore him. And he says, no, just leave me alone. I'm just a sadhu. So he just established himself in a village. And his fame grew. Everybody said, my God, you've never met anybody like that who is so virakta, so just doesn't need anything. Pretty soon, this news reached the king. So the king went to him and he said, sir, so he was chanting something and the king was very, very impressed by that. So the king said, I want to give you, a lot of money. So the Virakta says, sir, I told you, I am not interested in money. That you came is also I don't need. Please go away. Please leave me. So the king said, my God, what a Mahatma this is. The king came to his feet and he also did not accept it. So the king went away. Next day, this Virakta guy shows in the palace of the king and said, sir, you visited me yesterday and you didn't recognize that I was the same Bahurupya. The king says, my God, you are right. Then the king told him, but I think you are a foolish person. When I offered you $1 million for being a sadhu, why didn't you take that? Now you're coming here and I may not give you anything because it's my choice. There I was giving you $1 million. So the Virakta sadhu said, sir, you do not understand. If I break the promise to myself and I accept $1 million, I'm no longer a Bahurupya, like my principles are. So I deliberately did not accept anything. I'm here now to prove that I fooled you. And whether you want to give me $1 or $1 million doesn't make any difference to me. So the king was finally very impressed by him and really fell at his feet. So the story of this is just a story, but we will develop the lesson of this story in our life and what it really means. And we'll continue on that in the next class. Okay? All right, with that. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay, let me shut this off and then. Anyway, I hope it's not too late for you, and if you had any questions, I'll be happy to answer that on this chat window which I opened today to look at. All right, doesn't look like there's any questions. So with that, I will sign off and hope